All right, so let's get a real understanding of what actually affects our fuel price and also some of these specific challenges that we face here in South Africa with our fuel. I'm joined by Peter Morgan, who is the CEO of the Liquid Fuel Wholesalers Association. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. So, I think it's like R1.46 more for a litre of fuel from midnight. Tonight's increase, it's not got anything to do with what's going over in Russia and Ukraine. Am I right?
Well, if you understand that we really have the fuel prices broken up into three areas. The first area is what we call BFP, that's the basic fuel price. And that really says what would it cost us to import a litre of fuel if we didn't refine it ourselves. Then we, before the price changed tonight, that's R9.03 a litre. Then we have the taxes and levies, which are R6.15 a litre, and there's going to be no changes to taxes or levies tonight. The balance is made up of what I call administered prices, and that's R3.22. And that's the margin that the retailer makes. That's the wholesale margin, that's secondary storage, that's secondary distribution, and there's no change anywhere in that either for tonight. So tonight's all about the fact that the price of crude has gone so high.
Yeah.
But that's really what's chasing tonight's prices, crude price.
So what is it going to, so at the moment, the basic fuel price is R9.03 a litre. After midnight, what is it going to be?
Well, you've got to add the R1.46 to it.
So it's as simple as that.
So R10.49.
R10.49. So that's quite a significant jump. And then how soon do you think the spike in Brent crude, due to what's been happening in the last 6 days between Russia and Ukraine, how soon does it flow through to us?
You see, for us, there's an issue that says the Ukraine issue is probably a spike in a very long process of price changes. So although it's under focus at the moment and it's very real, we believe there's other issues that are changing the price of fuels to South Africa, and that's really where our concerns are, because we're saying that the whole intention to review the fuel price needs to be broadened, and the intention should be that we should be looking at sustainability of getting fuel into South Africa. Because if you can't get product into South Africa, then the price we're paying, without appearing to be flippant, is really a moot point, isn't it?
And to understand that conversation that I'm keen to have, we need to understand how much refined, ready to pump out fuel we import and how much crude oil that we send to our refineries. What is the split?
Well, at the moment, it's very little refineries. If you remember that Astron had a fire and went down, and they haven't been refining. Engine had a fire and went down, they haven't been refining. Sapref announced in the last couple of weeks that they were stopping investment, and from May they would stop refining. We know that Petro SA hasn't imported any petrol into South Africa for over a year. We know that in the last 6 weeks to 7 weeks they've had difficulty getting diesel into South Africa. So at the moment, if you look at that, what we have refining is still Natref, and there's discussions about Natref's future, and of course Secunda, which is fuel from coal. So you get to the situation now where we're talking about becoming a country that's becoming a refining import country and not a refining country that we've had in the past. And that's really where we get all our concerns from.
So are you saying that basically our capacity to refine our own fuel has diminished drastically and we are more and more reliant on refined fuel? What are the consequences of that?
You see, we actually had a discussion a couple of weeks ago at the LFWA about this. Because if you understand that it's not the fact that we can't refine, it's the fact that the refiners don't want to anymore for a number of reasons. But we asked ourselves the question and said, if we have imports and we're not refining anymore, what does that really mean to us as a country? We know, and I'm going to read, if you'll allow me, off some of my notes so I get it right.
But you must keep it simple.
We know that in the short term,
easily. Okay, go.
In the short-term view, there's people are saying there's a lot of product in the market, so you can import cheaper than the current BFP. That might be the case now, but is that sustainable? How long will it last? We believe that if you're an import-led economy, then the risk of vagrancies of imported markets, with a lot of the geopolitical impacts that we've seen of late, creates a serious impact on our ability to draw fuel. Without underlying refining capacity, we are at the mercy of global markets, even more so now. And if you think about it, we've been importing crude. We've also been importing various components of fuel that allows us to blend it. And we've been importing finished products, all the new fuels, the clean fuels. And that gives you an ability to be able to make choices. If we go to import only, it's going to make it a lot more difficult for us.
I hear you.
There's also something we must always remember in South Africa, is that we have a serious disadvantaged location being in South Africa. I mean, if you look at global shipping, it runs east to west around the equator. If you want to import your own fuel into South Africa, you actually pay premiums to get these vessels to come down as far as us.
There's a lot of interesting logistics. Peter, I'm going to interrupt you because I want to ask you one final question, and if you could keep it as short and simple as possible. In terms of speaking to us as consumers now, and you've given us fascinating insight into the fuel challenges that are specific to us here in South Africa. As consumers, looking at what's going on with the global fuel price, the Brent crude oil price, and the concerns around Russia and Ukraine, should we prepare ourselves for a year of steep hikes? Is it almost a given, or is it impossible to say at this point?
You see, there's two issues for that. First of all, you need to make sure that your pricing model reflects exactly what's happening in your market. That will give you some comfort. And there's another discussion we need to have, and that's about having strategic reserves of finished product in our country. We don't have any. So we're always, at risk of, we know that if a refinery goes down and it isn't a planned shutdown, that there's highly likely somebody's going to be rationed because it's been unplanned. It goes so far as to say that we know if there's bad weather in the Eastern Cape or in Cape Town and we can't get vessels into the harbour because of the weather, it's highly likely that somebody's going to be rationed. So what we should be saying is make sure our price model reflects what's actually happening on the ground, and make sure that we have the strategic resources that we need. So when we have these ongoing spikes in all our pricing issues, that we've got some sort of comfort that says, don't worry, we've got a few tankfuls here that we can make it last for a few weeks, so we can plan ways to get around these spikes.
All right, so there's no cushion because we don't have those strategic reserves of fuel. Thank you so much for your insights into the fuel industry, specifically here in South Africa and globally. That's Peter Morgan. He's the CEO of the Liquid Fuel Wholesalers Association. All right, plenty more still to come here on eNCA.